I'm Kyle Bachus. On April 28th of 2020, my mom was killed as a result of someone else's negligence. It's completely changed my life and the way I practice law. If you too have felt the pain of losing a loved one and you don't know where to turn, let me be your guide on what to do next when the unthinkable happens. In a previous video, I discussed the criminal justice system. I think it's important to understand the civil justice system is a different system. In the civil justice system, the family of somebody who's been killed or the person who has been injured is in control of the case. This is not a case brought by the government. This is a case brought only by the people who were actually the victims of the event. It's brought not to put somebody in jail, that's for the government to do, but instead to recover for the financial consequences of what happened as a result of the negligence of the person who caused the event. In a civil case, there's really two parts to a civil case. One is proving who was at fault, and then the second is proving what damages were caused by that fault. In proving who is at fault and in proving the damages, you don't have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt like you would in a criminal case. The standard of proof is a little bit lower. It's called the preponderance of the evidence. That means we have to prove what's more likely true than not true. So if we look at proving who is at fault, we have to prove what's more likely true than not true about how this crash or event occurred. You have to prove fault, and if you can prove fault, then you can collect financial damages related to the consequences. So we talked about how financial accountability is the goal of a civil case, but there can be other types of accountability that are caused by the threat of a civil case. In my mom's case, what we determined through our investigation and with the help of the police department was that there were some aftermarket parts that were put up on the dashboard of the concrete mixer truck that killed my mother. And not just on that truck, but on other trucks in the fleet that were owned by that concrete truck company. And these aftermarket parts, according to our experts' analysis in the civil arena, was that the aftermarket parts caused an obstruction when looking down and to the right from the driver's seat in the concrete mixer truck, to the extent that 75% of the field of vision was blocked or partially obstructed as a result of this aftermarket part. And so just by having the threat of a civil case, we were able to work with the trucking company to have the aftermarket parts removed from the dashboard, not only of the truck that killed my mother, but from the entire fleet of trucks to the extent that they had them up on the dashboard. That helped prevent others from suffering the same consequences as my mother suffered by getting those off the dashboard. And I think that without the prospect of a potential civil case, that may not have been accomplished. It's enough for a family just to try to digest the basics that I'm describing, especially in the aftermath of a loss like you're likely to be experiencing. And so the reality is you're likely going to need to work with a lawyer, somebody who can really be there to advocate for your family and the needs of your family in a civil case.